All right, thank you everyone for coming out as we talk about the ongoing work that's happening here in Parley's Canyon to reduce fuels in the canyon and protect the watershed and the other natural resources that are up there. First, we're going to hear from Becky Hatzi. She's the Salt Lake District Ranger with Wasatch Cache National Forest. Following her will be Laura Briefer, Director of Salt Lake City Public Utilities. Then Jess Kirby, the Manager for Salt Lake County Public Lands. Following her will be Lloyd Evans, the WUI Coordinator with the Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. And then finally, we'll hear from Robbie Edgell, Habitat Restoration Biologist with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. Becky.
Good morning. Sorry, you're taller than most of us.
Feel free to hold it if you have to.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Good morning. I'm Becky Hatzi. I'm District Ranger for the Salt Lake District. And I just want to say thank you for coming out. This work is really important, and it's great that you guys are getting this message out for the public to understand what we're doing up here. To have a healthy forest, we have to make sure that it's resilient. And what I mean by that is having a diversity of tree species out there. And the people who came here 100 years ago, who had cut down all the trees, when they replanted everything, they made sure that they gave us that. They planted spruce, they planted pine, they planted ponderosa. If you go up to spruces, there's even larch up there in the winter or in the fall that you can see. That's that yellow streak up there. That diversity of species, what that gives us is some type of resiliency against bugs and diseases that come through. So spruce beetle goes after spruce. Pine beetle, you guessed it, goes after pine. And then we have a Balsamolia delgid that only attacks subalpine fir and white fir. So when you have that diversity of species, you're always going to have some species that are going to persist when a bug outbreak goes through. Another thing that's important is to have a diversity of age class. So that spruce and pine beetle that I mentioned, when they come through, they only look for trees that are of certain size that they can lay their larvae in, and the larvae can live underneath that bark. So they don't go after the small trees, they only go after the bigger trees. So by having the diversity of trees and the diversity of species is going to give us more resiliency. The last thing that gives us resiliency is by breaking up what we call fuels. So basically a fuel is anything that burns, right? Here in the forest, it's our trees, it's our grass, it's our shrubs. So by breaking up those trees and reducing the amount of trees up there, it will give the firefighters a chance to stop those wildfires from going through and having catastrophic effects to the landscape and to the watersheds. So the culmination of what you're seeing today is 6 years of work where we've been working with our partners who will be speaking today about how this work is important to them, and they'll also talk a little bit more about how it's important to the public and why it's important for people to understand what we're doing up here. So that's all I had. Next will be Laura Briefer with Salt Lake Department of Public Utilities.
Good morning. I'm Laura Briefer, Director of Salt Lake City Department of Public Utilities. It's really great to be here instead of in my office in a Zoom meeting, so thank you very much for helping me get out to the field. So Becky talked about resiliency, and I want to focus on that for a minute. So first of all, just to step back a little bit, Becky Hatzi, our district ranger, is part of a legacy of partnership that Salt Lake City and the United States Forest Service have had, starting in about 1906 or so, when we first did our first resiliency project in replanting forests in Big Cottonwood Canyon at Spruce's campground after mining and deforestation impacted those watersheds. So I feel like what you're seeing here today is a continuation of a very strong relationship in terms of making a resilient forest and keeping our watersheds resilient. And the reason why it's important to keep our watersheds resilient is because we provide drinking water to about 365,000 people in the Salt Lake Valley. This watershed, Parley's watershed, is a very, very important source of water to meet those public benefit needs. And I'll say there are a few things that are important about this watershed. One is its significant quantity and quality for the public's water supplies. And secondly, we have a lot of infrastructure up here. We have a water treatment plant, and we have 2 reservoirs that store water and also serve as flood control. So a catastrophic wildfire through this canyon could have very dire impacts to Salt Lake City's drinking water supply. You'll see behind me, this is one of our Salt Lake City Keep It Pure signs that talks about what the public can do to keep their watershed protected and to keep their water pure as well. So this project is a partnership, and a very important partnership. We have been working on this for a long time, and part of the reason why Salt Lake City is involved in addition to the fact that this is within our culinary watershed is because we also have a lot of land in this canyon. Part of Salt Lake City's watershed protection strategy is to purchase land from willing sellers and conserve it in perpetuity. And in this canyon, we have thousands of acres of land across our watersheds from City Creek to the north to Little Cottonwood to the south. It's about 30,000 acres. So this project includes forest treatments on about 415 acres of Salt Lake City's land, kind of adjacent to the freeway here. And it's really going to be something that we look to for the future as far as lessons learned. Our watershed management plan is currently under revision, and a big piece of that watershed management plan, a big focus of it, is wildfire risk and climate risk. And so this project is something that is going to help us look toward the future in how we manage not only our lands, but in the lands we manage in conjunction with other entities. So anyway, that's all I have to say today. Thank you very much for being here and helping us commemorate this important project. And next we have Jess Kirby.
Good morning. I'm Jess Kirby. I am the Public Lands Manager for Summit County. Probably wondering why Summit County is at a Salt Lake County event, but I'm here to talk about the partnerships that is happening with the Parley Summit project. Summit County has been a proud partner of this project for 3 years. Since our involvement, Laura just spoke to the 400 acres that has been treated. Since we've been involved, overall, we've treated close to 2,500 acres for the entire project. The project stretches from Kimball Junction all the way to the mouth of Parley Summit, and Summit County's involvement is, we're the partners on the other side of the ridge. The Parley Summit fire was headed straight towards our community, so we're invested in being partners in forest health and watershed protection on this side of the county, not only to help the restoration and habitat improvement on this side, but to protect our life, health, and safety of our community and our residents in Summit County. This project is a poster child for this kind of work. We have partners here from the U.S. Forest Service, Forestry Fire State Lands, the Division of Wildlife, but we also have some quieter partners such as recreation districts out of Summit County. We've got some private nonprofits working with us, Sageland Collaborative, doing restoration work in our streams. And we've been funded through the Utah Watershed Restoration Initiative, which has been instrumental in getting this work on the ground. And that's a state of Utah program that's funded through our legislature. So we're really grateful for this. These projects have become, like I said, the poster child for this kind of work, and has gotten work on both the Wasatch front and Wasatch back. Summit County has taken this model and is implementing it in the Weber watershed as well, which is hoping to protect the source water for 1.2 million people. So we're protecting our watersheds from the Parley side and from the Weber watershed side as a collaborative effort. That's all I wanted to say, so thank you. Next up is Lloyd Evans, the WUI coordinator, the Wildland Urban Interface Coordinator for Forestry Fire State Lands.
Hi again, my name is Lloyd Evans. I'm with the Wasatch Front, which consists of 5 counties Morgan, Salt Lake, Tooele, Davis, and Utah, Salt Lake counties. We collaborate with everybody across the board, federal, other state agencies, local cities, local cooperators, fire departments like Unified Fire and Park City Fire Department, who have chipper programs that assist our communities with defensible space around their homes and access and egress out of their communities, such as this, when there's only one way in and one way out. But we're happy to be a part of this collaboration of the Water Restoration Initiative. We help oversee that funding and contract out, like I said, our local cooperators to do the fuel reduction work in the communities, which helps a great deal with wildfire risk and keeping the catastrophic wildfire low and reducing the damage in catastrophic wildfires. Thank you. Sorry, Robbie Edgell.
Robbie Edgell, habitat restoration biologist with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. And I've been working on this project for several years now with all our partners, and it's been a really awesome example of collaboration between different land agencies and landowners to come together to plan a project that isn't just on one piece of land, but can cover the entire span of the watershed. And so we've been working, like I say, for several years, but this year you're really going to start seeing it be a lot more visible. And so one of the things we wanted to get out there is just to help people understand that this is a positive project, and we've all been taught how trees are so important for ecosystems, but that's just part of the picture. And what we're trying to do here is create more diversity across the landscape. We'll be going through and mulching some of the trees along Parley's Canyon, the oak brush, and thinning it out. And this will allow for other vegetation to grow in the interspace in between the areas where we mulch. So we'll have more shrubs and grass and forb species that are also important for many other wildlife species like elk, moose, deer, and even small animals like rabbits, which will provide more food source for our birds of prey like hawks and eagles. And so this project will not only reduce fire risk, but will also be beneficial to the overall health of the ecosystem for wildlife. And so we're really excited to see this work happen, and just want to emphasize that to the public that this will be a positive thing, and we've brought a lot of science and a lot of on-the-ground experience together to plan this project in the best way possible. And we also just want to emphasize that to stay out of the area while the machinery is working. The machinery can throw debris and it can be dangerous, and so this is a popular hunting area, and we just want to caution people to stay away from this area. Work will begin potentially on October 20th and continue for 3 to 4 weeks. So should be a short project, but hopefully be very beneficial and change the landscape for not only reducing fire risk to these communities, but also for the health of the wildlife and the watershed. So thank you, and thank you for your interest.
All right, that'll conclude this portion of the press event. There will be individual opportunities to do one-on-ones with the people that spoke today. So feel free to reach out to either myself, Chloe, or the individual that you would like to speak to, and we'll get that taken care of for you.